Welcome to another deep dive. We're going to be exploring something a little different today. We're going to be talking about some science, prophecy, and history.
Sounds intriguing.
Yeah, so the source for today's deep dive is a History Channel video about the Nostradamus effect. And get this, we're going to be diving into Sir Isaac Newton's, like father of physics,
Oh, yeah.
secret obsession with biblical prophecy. He actually predicted the world would end in 2060.
Wow. That's pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, pretty mind-blowing, right? So we're going to unpack this and see if those seemingly random doomsday predictions are maybe a little bit more connected than we think.
Well, it's certainly interesting to consider that Newton, the symbol of rationality and scientific thinking, spent years poring over biblical texts like Daniel and Revelation.
Yeah, I know. It's almost like finding out, like, your super logical friend secretly has, like, a fully stocked doomsday bunker or something.
Right?
But why all the secrecy?
Well, you have to remember that Newton lived in a time when expressing unorthodox religious views, like his rejection of the Trinity, could land you in some pretty hot water.
Oh, so he was basically like a 17th century biblical conspiracy theorist.
Kind of. He was engaging in some pretty high-stakes research, keeping it all under wraps.
So how did this hidden side of Newton even come to light?
Well, picture this, 1936, London. A collection of Newton's private papers appears at an auction.
Okay.
And guess who buys them?
I don't know who.
Economist John Maynard Keynes. It's like finding a treasure chest filled with secrets from one of history's most brilliant minds.
Wow. That's incredible. It makes you wonder what else he might have been, thinking about in secret. But let's get to the heart of it. What exactly was Newton's prediction for 2060?
Well, Newton used biblical chronology, interpreting specific passages and numbers as years, to try and pinpoint specific dates. He believed there would be a sequence of events leading up to this apocalyptic moment. And you might be surprised to learn that some of these events actually seem to align with moments in history.
Okay, now I'm really curious. Let's dive into those predictions. What were some of the events Newton believed would precede 2060?
Well, one key date was 1899. Newton calculated this as the year the Jewish people would begin returning to Israel, and this actually coincided with the rise of the Zionist movement.
And for those who might not know, the Zionist movement advocated for a Jewish homeland in Israel, right? So did this prediction actually pan out?
Well, remarkably, the first Zionist Congress was held the very next year, in 1900.
Wow, that timing is certainly striking. Were there any other dates on Newton's apocalyptic timeline?
Yeah, another critical year for Newton was 1944. He saw this as a pivotal year leading up to the end times.
1944. Well, that was the end of World War II and the Holocaust, events that directly contributed to the creation of the State of Israel in 1948. It's almost eerie how closely Newton's calculations align with those pivotal moments.
It really is. And Newton also believed that the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem played a critical role in this apocalyptic sequence.
Oh, interesting. Well, considering the Temple Mount is one of the most contested religious sites in the world, what significance did the temple hold for Newton's predictions?
Newton believed the temple had to be rebuilt on its original site for the end times to begin. He saw it as a sort of blueprint of God's mind, containing hidden clues about creation and the end of the world.
And currently, the Dome of the Rock, a significant Islamic shrine, stands on that very spot. It makes you wonder if rebuilding the temple could spark the kind of global conflict Newton envisioned.
It's certainly a possibility, especially given the religious and political sensitivities surrounding the Temple Mount.
This is getting a little creepy now, how closely some of Newton's predictions seem to mirror historical events. Does this suggest that we might be witnessing a convergence of these ancient prophecies with modern times, or is this just a series of fascinating coincidences?
It's crucial to approach these connections with a critical eye and not jump to conclusions. However, the return of the Jewish people to Israel, the increasing global instability, and the rising frequency of natural disasters events Newton believed would precede the apocalypse definitely give us pause.
Yeah, no kidding. This is giving us a lot to think about. But this deep dive isn't just about Newton. It's about the Nostradamus effect. The idea that all these doomsday prophecies, even from different sources, might be intertwined. So where does Nostradamus fit into all of this?
Well, both Nostradamus and Newton shared a belief in the concept of the Antichrist, this figure who would deceive the world and ultimately lead to its destruction.
Ah, yes, the Antichrist, the ultimate bad guy of apocalyptic prophecies. And both of these figures believed that this individual would play a major role in the end times.
Exactly. While Nostradamus is known for his vague and often cryptic predictions, Some people interpret his writings as pointing to a similar timeline for the apocalypse as Newton's calculations.
So we have two of histories, like most renowned thinkers, separated by centuries, both predicting a similar doomsday scenario. It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does raise some intriguing questions, and although we can't say for sure if either of them was right, their prophecies continue to fascinate and perhaps even serve as a warning,
A warning to change our ways and avert disaster.
potentially. But it's also important to remember that prophecies can be interpreted in various ways. They could be seen as warnings, but also as calls to action.
That's a really interesting perspective. But before we get too philosophical, I think we should explore another prophecy that might be connected to all of this. The Three Secrets of Fatima.
Ah, yes, the Fatima prophecies, shrouded in mystery and intrigue. They contain warnings about war, the rise of communism, and even a potential assassination attempt on the Pope.
And some believe these prophecies are intertwined with both Newton's predictions and the things we see unfolding in the world today.
Exactly. The Fatima prophecies add another layer to this whole web of doomsday predictions, and they're definitely worth exploring.
All right, let's take a closer look at the mysteries of Fatima in part 2 of this deep dive. Okay, so Fatima, where do we even begin with this one?
Well, our journey takes us back to 1917, in the middle of World War I, to Fatima, Portugal. It was here that three young shepherd children claimed to have encountered a vision of the Virgin Mary.
And they received three secret prophecies, right? These three secrets of Fatima that supposedly hold warnings about the fate of the world.
That's right. These secrets were said to contain warnings about the fate of the world if humanity didn't change its ways. And it's interesting to note that Fatima itself has a rather intriguing history. The town was actually named after a Muslim princess who is the daughter of Muhammad's most beloved daughter.
So a location with strong ties to both Christianity and Islam. Could this be significant, like a sign of unity perhaps, or maybe a warning about conflict between these faiths?
It certainly adds a layer of complexity to the story, doesn't it? Now, to prove the truth of her apparitions, Mary supposedly promised the children a sign, something miraculous.
Okay, I think I see where this is going. Let's hear about this miracle.
On October 13th, 1917, tens of thousands of people gathered in Fatima, and they witnessed what became known as the miracle of the sun.
Right, the dancing sun. I've heard about this. Witnesses claim that the sun changed colors and zigzagged across the sky, and even appeared to be hurtling towards Earth.
Exactly. It was a remarkable spectacle, though of course there's no scientific evidence to support these claims. The laws of physics wouldn't allow for a dancing sun.
That's true, but it must have been quite an experience for those who witnessed it. And it's fascinating that even though science can explain it, the Catholic Church still recognizes the event as a miracle.
It speaks to the power of belief and the enduring mystery surrounding Fatima. But let's move beyond the miracle of the sun for a moment and delve into the prophecies themselves. What secrets did Mary supposedly reveal?
Okay, let's hear it. What were these three secrets?
The first secret was a terrifying vision of hell, a warning about the consequences of sin and the importance of leading a righteous life.
Wow, a stark reminder of mortality, to say the least. What about the second secret?
Well, the second secret was a bit more specific. Mary warned of a new world war that would be even more devastating than the one raging at the time. She said an unknown light would illuminate the night sky, signaling this war.
An unknown light, huh? That sounds a little cryptic.
It does, doesn't it? And naturally, it fueled a lot of speculation. Then, in January 1938, an extraordinary aurora borealis illuminated the skies over Europe.
But wasn't that just a natural phenomena?
From a scientific perspective, yes. But for those who believed in the Fatima prophecies, it seemed like a direct fulfillment of Mary's warning. And shortly after that, Hitler invaded Austria, marking the beginning of World War II.
So another chilling coincidence. Or a sign that there was more to these prophecies than we initially thought.
It certainly deepened the belief that Mary's predictions were coming true. The second secret also contained a warning about the rise of Russia and the spread of its errors throughout the world.
The errors of communism, right? So the Fatima prophecies were also tapping into those geopolitical anxieties of the 20th century.
Exactly. Mary supposedly called for the consecration of Russia to her Immaculate Heart, claiming that if this was done, Russia would be converted and peace would prevail.
Consecration meaning like dedication to a holy purpose, right?
Yes. However, according to Lucia, the surviving witness, the popes at the time didn't perform the consecration exactly as Mary had instructed.
And what happened as a result?
Well, as the prophecy allegedly warned, Russia did indeed spread its errors throughout the world. Communism took hold in many countries, leading to decades of Cold War tensions and the constant threat of nuclear war.
So the Fatima prophecies were essentially mirroring the anxieties of that era, the fear of war, the rise of communism, and the potential for nuclear annihilation.
Precisely, and it's this resonance with real-world events that made these prophecies so powerful. They tapped into people's deepest fears and anxieties, while also offering a glimmer of hope if only humanity would heed the warnings.
Okay, so far we've got visions of hell, warnings of war, and the spread of communism. Seems things are getting pretty bleak. But what about that third secret? I understand that one was kept under wraps for quite a long time.
You're right. The third secret remained a mystery for decades, fueling all sorts of speculation and conspiracy theories.
Well, that's not surprising. People are naturally drawn to mysteries, especially when they might involve earth-shattering prophecies. So when was the third secret finally revealed?
It wasn't until the year 2000, a full 83 years after the initial apparition, that the Vatican finally made the third secret public.
Wow, they kept that one under wraps for a long time. What did it say?
The third secret is complex and open to interpretation, but it describes a vision of a bishop dressed in white being killed, alongside other religious figures, by bullets and arrows.
A bishop dressed in white. That sounds like it could be a reference to the Pope.
Many people believe that it does refer to the attempted assassination of Pope John Paul II in 1981.
So potentially another prophecy fulfilled. But does that mean the third secret was just about an assassination attempt on the Pope?
Not necessarily. The vision also includes an angel holding a flaming sword, which some interpret as a symbol of nuclear war. The angel was about to strike the earth with the sword, but Mary intervened and stopped him.
Could this be a prophecy about a nuclear war that was averted? Maybe a reference to the Cuban Missile Crisis?
It's certainly a possibility. The Cuban Missile Crisis was a time when the world came perilously close to nuclear war, and many believe that divine intervention, perhaps inspired by the Fatima prophecies, prevented a global catastrophe.
All right, this is getting pretty mind-bending. We've got prophecies potentially predicting World War II, the rise of communism, a papal assassination attempt, and even the averted nuclear war of the Cuban Missile Crisis.
It is a lot to process, and while